Jeremiah text, fundamentally what we're seeing is in the Jeremiah text, we have the notion of suffering being sent by God as a way to challenge, to break down, to prepare, to practice Jeremiah for what was to come. And what was to come was that he was going to preach, and he was going to be this fiery prophet, and he was going to have people coming after him. You hear it in that text. My enemies want to take me down. Even my own friends want to take me down because they don't like the message I'm preaching. He was a very unpopular man, but he was called to, and he was living out the message that God had put in his heart. All right, so that's that. We've got this suffering sent by God, but then in this Matthew text, we have something different. We have suffering not that has been sent, but suffering, Jesus is saying, if you choose to do this, remember, it's your choice, disciples. It's our choice, free will. If you choose, you need to understand. Basically, all the fire of heaven and earth, all the wrath you can imagine, all the hardship, all the sorrow, all the suffering is going to become yours. If you choose this path that I've given you, it is not an easy path. You will suffer. Will there be glory? Yes. Will you have enormous joy? Yes. Will you have accomplishments? Yes. But more than anything, you will be bearing, it will be as if you are bearing a cross on your back. Bear your cross, right? We all have a cross to bear. The more you buy into, Jesus is saying, the more you buy into my teaching, the more you live out my teaching, the heavier that cross is going to be. The more you will endure suffering. So this is it, folks. In the Jeremiah text, we have suffering that God sends or that life sends. And we all have that, don't we? We go through loss, we go through death, loss of a dream, whatever. But here we have this odd thing. Suffering that is chosen. To choose volitionally, willfully, a path that they knew they were going to suffer on. To choose suffering, not for suffering's sake, but knowing that this path that I choose will bring suffering. Standard theme throughout Jesus' teachings. If you wish to gain your life, you must lose it. And the way you're going to lose your life is you're going to get your tail handed to you. You're going to be beaten down, you're going to be scorned, you're going to be ridiculed. It is not going to be pink bows and cotton candy. It's going to be hard. And what Jesus is saying is this is a choice. So why? The question comes down to why would anybody choose this? Why would somebody volitionally, why would somebody willfully, voluntarily choose suffering? There's only one reason. There's only one reason. They chose it because it meant something to them. There's an old saying, man can endure any what if he has a why to live for. See, the disciples had a why. They chose this. And several weeks ago, we went down, didn't we? And we listed all the ways that the different disciples died, were martyred, were killed. All the different ways that Paul was persecuted. They chose it. They didn't have to. Although Jeremiah would argue, I had to. I had to. I could do no other. What did Martin Luther say as he stood before the Roman Catholic Church? And he denounced the theology, and he denounced many of the practices, and he stood before them. They wanted him to recant. They wanted him to back down. All right, now we're not talking 2,000 years ago. This is just 500 years ago. Almost at the beginning of the Reformation, just after John Huss. He stands before the Roman Catholic Church. Probably his knees were shaking. Stands there with his chest out, and he says, here I stand. I can do no other. It was in him. He had to do it. I can't do any other. I know what is going to befall me. I know I'm going to suffer, but I can't. I can't walk away from this. It's so strong inside of me. It burns inside of me. I must, even though I know I will suffer. That's powerful stuff. The disciples chose this path knowing they would suffer. Why? Because it meant something to them. So then the obvious direction I'm going with this is, You have suffering in your own life. You have two kinds of suffering in your own life, don't you? You have the stuff that befalls you that you don't seem to have any play in making happen. Things that happen to you. People you lose, dreams you lose, things that go awry, things that you don't have control over. We'll call that the suffering that happens to you. But then we all have suffering that we choose to some greater or lesser degree, don't we? You're willing to work extra hours at your job. Why? Because what you're working to has value. You choose to suffer and work through a hard marriage or a hard spell in a marriage. Why? Because this person and this thing that we have created, this relationship, has value. You choose to parent teenagers or difficult children or when they become adults or whatever it might be. Why? Because they have value to you. Now, peace, then, that Jesus, the Bible, that God puts on our plate, is this Matthew text, where he says it's not enough. It's not enough. If what you're choosing to value, if what you are choosing to endure suffering and hardship and difficulty and privation and fatigue and sweat and blood and dirt and tears in your eyes, if what you are choosing to endure all of that for is somehow simply oriented around your little world, Jesus is saying, you're not oriented to God. Those are good and noble things, but ultimately they fall short. Because it's still you in the center of the universe. It's you and yours. Those are good things, but it's not the highest things. And we can live this existence, and it's very easy to live this existence. Why? Because the second we walk out that door, we have an entire culture oriented toward telling you that that is precisely what you should be oriented toward. You should be oriented towards your own children and the people you love. And also, by the way, you should also be oriented to the nice things that you have. Now, am I here to tell you those things are bad? No. I don't have them, but I'm not going to tell you they're bad. That's between you and your God. I'm just here to present the text. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. All week I've been thinking, I'm going to offend the very people I love. I'm sticking in their face the very last thing they probably need to hear today, the very last thing they probably want to hear. And it is what it is, folks. God's message, God's call in our hearts is forever pulling us, tugging us, getting in our face. And we try to keep it down. No, God, I want to be comfortable. Not only do I want to be comfortable, I want my children to be comfortable. And I want to be really comfortable. And it fits, and you can get away with that. Because our society says, precisely. That's precisely what you should do. But it's still there, that voice. It's deep down here. Ever had a gut feeling about something? Ever been sick to your stomach? Ever had a knot in your gut? That's the same place. It's that deep inside you. And sometimes we're able to keep it quiet. Shh. God. God. Shh. I'm working on this stuff over here. I'm working on my comfort over here. God. Shh. I'll pray to you, God, but don't push me, okay? I know, God, that you want me to tithe 10% of my life. Minimum. But I'm going to tithe 0.5% of my life. And I'm not just talking about your money, folks. Your life, right? As an interesting aside, it's very interesting to note in about the last 20 to 25 years in most mainline denominations, they no longer talk strictly about or as adamantly about the notion of tithing your money. Right? Now we talk about time, talent, and treasure are the clever words. Right? Why? Because people don't want to let go of their money. Now, am I up here to tell you you should let go of your money? It's between you and God. That's between you and God. But the truth is, where your money is, where your treasure lies, that's where your priority is. You want to look yourself in the mirror, look at where your money is. You want to look yourself in the mirror, look at where you invest your time. Look where you invest your energy, your resources.